And Jesus died on the cross, and through such an excruciating, that's where the word excruciating comes from, the cross, because the pain that he suffered, he's not going to escape that, and we can't escape suffering.
Right.
That's just part of living in this planet.
Why do you say that, part of living on this planet? I mean, if I was a god, I'm not, but if I was a god and I was to create this earth, why not make it perfect?
He did create it perfect. He's not the one that brought evil and suffering into the world. We did. So the Genesis narrative, people like look at that as a historical narrative, like there was this Adam and Eve sat in front of God, and then they chose this tree of like knowledge of good, which is actually a symbol of independence and control. So
the tree of knowledge is.
Yeah, so it's like living without God. Like I want to live on my own, and then that extrapolated into the Tower of Babel, which is people saying we can do all these things without you. Rather than submitting to the Creator, they wanted to be the Creator.
But let's not. There's an antagonist here too, right? The snake and all of that.
Yeah, but those are all symbolisms. Genesis is a narrative. Moses wrote Genesis as a symbolic, like a narrative, so that people of all time will understand and extract truth from that passage that we would all understand.
Are you saying then Adam and Eve wasn't real people? What do you mean by narrative?
Well, it alludes to Genesis 1. It says, like when God created man, the word man is Adamah, which is humanity.
Okay.
And then Genesis 2 extrapolates on what's happening to humanity. But we need to understand that God is sharing us, giving us a narrative. It's not a scientific document. It's a narrative to tell us exactly what went wrong in this planet.
Right.
So basically God is saying humanity rebelled against God. And there was this progenitor, which is Adam.
Okay.
And there was a man.
So Adam is real, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a person that represented humanity, or Eve. It could be those two, but they rebelled against the Creator. And then that put a fissure into
the relationship.
They separated themselves from the protection of God. They said, we no longer want to be with you.
But then why are we having to pay like thousands of years ago from our ancestors and what they did? Why isn't it like devoid of suffering now? Why didn't he create,
Because that sin nature is passed on from generation to generation. We all have it. Like if you have children, you'll know it right away.
What do you mean?
Every child is born with a sin nature to want to be independent, demand what they want, entitlement, and then we raise them up to kind of curtail that to a certain degree. But I coach adults, I coach CEOs, I coach leaders.
Yeah, and isn't independence good? I mean, you think of a CEO as independent.
Ultimately, every sin that we commit is rooted in independence.
Give me an example.
Let's say a guy is like going and deciding I'm going to go and sleep with a prostitute.
Right.
Well, how is he working that in his mind? Let's say he's married.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he's looking out for what? His own desires and his own wants, despite what the ripple effect is going to cause his family. But then the only thing that restraining him is like the consequences of that, and then maybe if there's laws against prostitution in the city. But history tells us that when there are no laws and there is no restraint, it's called barbarism. So history goes through stages like barbarism, where people are just doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's basically anarchy.
A zoo, like chaos.
It's like when there's riots in the city, it's because they think there's no police. So you got school teachers going into stores and stealing jeans.
Right, but God created us with free will, right? He gave
but then
us
there was
will.
no sin nature. Once we chose that nature entered into our...
So you're saying Adam and Eve weren't born with a sin nature. They were all perfect. Everything
they were perfect.
Was okay. And then would you say that it was a choice made by Adam and Eve, or would you say that, the snake, Satan, our enemy?
Satan cannot make choices for us. He just tempts us.
So they were tempted and they took the bait.
Yeah, and then they submitted under the rule of Satan because they submitted into his truth or his deception.
So you're saying suffering started all the way back in Genesis? and is now
if you
in
look
us.
at the earth like this,
Yeah.
this is heaven,
Yeah.
where God dwells.
Sure.
This is earth, and then right in the middle, like it's like a Venn diagram. There's Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, and then these two things are merging. It's perfect. Nothing is
Heaven
wrong.
and earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so God told Adam and Eve to make earth like heaven. You're going to be the regents of this planet. I'm the king,
Yes.
and you're the regents. And so go and make. That's the work.
Yeah, you have dominion over all the
make
creatures
heaven.
of the
There's
sea.
nothing to worry about. I'm with you.
Right.
But then when Adam and Eve sinned, he separated himself. Because God cannot be in sin. God is perfect. That's like telling somebody to drink toilet water. It looks pure, but then there's impurities everywhere. It's like oil and water mixing together. It's not that God is rejecting that. He cannot be. There is no possible way that God can be in any part of sin because he's perfectly holy. So there was a separation. That's why there's a separation.
Between heaven and earth
Yeah,
now.
Garden of Eden and earth. And then there was a separation. You cannot enter anymore. And now you're on your own. And then on their own, you can see. But then God in his mercy started like trying to recreate that because he had a plan.
Are you talking about Jesus?
Yeah, well, all the Old Testament, all the failures of leadership, but God was with them. He chose a nation. He chose Noah, Abraham, and then he chose David, and he chose it. And then through that line, Jesus will come, and then through the cross, there will be a connection again.
Right.
He was creating that Garden of Eden again through Jesus. And then now it's our job to like squeeze out sin from the world. So see that there's sin in the heaven, earth, Adam and Eve, all that line, there's sin, polluted. God cannot be there. So when Jesus came, he's recreating that Garden of Eden. He's the new Adam. And then he's calling us to be
like him,
his offspring.
Right.
And to be the future, like Israel. Go and redeem the land. And so that's why Revelation ends with a new heaven and a new earth.
Yeah.
And so that's why Jesus prayed, let your kingdom come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah.
So
I wondered what that meant.
We are trying to bring heaven
on earth.
And then so heaven is encroaching upon earth, and as it does, sin starts to it's like a big zit. It starts to get squeezed out.
So then.
And then at the end, it'll be heaven and earth
together,
which was the original plan in the first place.